Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to your Public Works and Gang Reduction Committee. I am joined by my colleagues, Councilmember Rue and O'Farrell. We're expecting Councilwoman Martinez, and Mr. Buscaino will not be joining us today. I'm going to start with, we have a number of items today. We're going to start with some multiple speaker comment cards, because there are a number of items that I'd like to take on consent, specifically 3, 5, 6, 7. But we need to go through multiple comment cards first. So I believe we have at least one of those. Mr. Arnold Sachs, if you could come forward. Which person? Okay. Welcome.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon, Arnold Sachs. I'm really surprised you're actually holding this meeting at 1 o'clock. I would actually think you would have taken a couple more hours after listening to your all the heavy lifting you did at City Hall today, in the City Council meeting today, especially regarding the banning of single-use plastic water bottles. That must have been some tiring discussion in the council committees. It's just amazing. But I really appreciate the fact that they brought in somebody from Canada to discuss the use of water in Los Angeles.
Mr. Sachs, you're on the items right now, not in general public comment.
Oh, I thought you mentioned public comment.
You had 2 minutes to speak on the items. You signed up for all the items.
Oh, okay.
And you'll get a
so
minute.
Item number 1 then. Is there an app for this a coordinated street furniture program? I'd appreciate the fact that if this was the Gangworks and Public Participation Reduction Committee, based on the upcoming business-to-business program that the county and the city want to establish, a street tree inspection clearance fee. Does that mean that a vehicle has to have room to drive under a tree? Item number 5 refers to the design and construction of the McClay Street at Gladstone Avenue Street Improvement Project. Which street would that be? Item number 6 refers to prohibiting activities that otherwise require a permit and create a violation of the American with Disabilities Act. Does that mean they need a permit, or they don't need a permit? If it requires if it violates the Americans with Disabilities Act, does that mean people can't march in the streets for protests because they would be violating the Americans with Disabilities Act?
That's your time.
I'm so sorry.
You signed up for 1 minute of general comment.
All right, general public comment.
And keep in mind, this general public comment about items in this committee, not what happened in council, but things that come before this committee.
Well, I mean,
go ahead.
What happens in council? It's a public works. Public works, but the council doesn't work. That's the real problem. It seems that the council has decided to subcontract out the work that the council does to members of the city staff. And so you really don't know what the council opinion is on any of the items.
Sachs, keep it limited to the items that come before this committee, please. You're talking about general things in council. Go ahead.
I'm talking about things that would come before this committee. And things that would come before this committee are heard by members of the city staff. First, they're heard by the members of the city staff, and then they come before the committee. It's not like they're heard here and include public comment. I mean, we get, you get 1 minute on a 10-item agenda. That doesn't allow for real public comment.
You get 2 minutes on the 10-item agenda, 1 minute general public comment. We also have a multiple speaker item card from Michael Shillstone. Mr. Shillstone, you come forward with you signed up for items number 1 and number 2, and that puts you into the multiple speaker comment card category, so you may speak on those 2 items.
Good afternoon. I'm Michael Shillstone with Central City Association. We're here to comment on items 1 and 2. Regarding the city's street furniture contract, we appreciate Street Services' detailed report and support the recommendation to seek bids for a new contract that will give the city greater flexibility and control. Important public realm projects like Metro Bike Share and Convention and Tourism's interactive kiosk system have been hampered due to the current contract's advertising terms. Ensuring that the city has shared advertising rights for its public right-of-way should be a non-negotiable feature of any future agreement. We're currently working with a number of government partners from council offices and local agencies on a wayfinding signage plan for downtown, which advertising could potentially help to fund. We encourage you to consider including wayfinding signage as part of a new street furniture RFP or potentially under Convention and Tourism's interactive kiosk project. We welcome the opportunity to further discuss those efforts with you and your staff. On the second agenda item, we thank Councilmember Blumenfield for bringing this initiative forward, and we're generally supportive of the micro-trenching ordinance and the recommended design standards. It's an important construction method that can help us bring about the next generation of telecommunication and smart city infrastructure, while significantly minimizing the impact on neighborhood streets. However, it's important to note that this is not a comprehensive solution to quickly deploying smart infrastructure across the city. Additionally, microtrenching was not considered in the analysis that supported the street damage restoration fee adopted by Council last year. Because the fee is tied to the impact on city streets, we think that this less invasive form of construction warrants a lower fee. We therefore encourage you to conduct an updated analysis of the fee that reflects microtrenching. We also hope that an update would account for our concerns with the prior process for setting the fee, which still did not allow for much opportunity for stakeholder input and was based on data that referred to outdated construction and restoration standards. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That closes the multiple public comment card speakers. We have one speaker for general public comment. Oh, there's the light. Okar Davila for general public comment. Is there an Okar Davila for general public comment? Going once, Okar Davila. Okay, then that closes general public comment. Colleagues, unless there's an objection, I'd like to move items 3, 5, 6, and 7 on consent. Seeing no objection to that, that will be the order. I'd also like to continue item 4. Seeing no objection, that will be the order. And on item, we're going to actually start with item 2. One will be a little bit longer, and 2 is a couple things to clear up. So, Mr. Espinosa, would you read item number 2 into the record, please?
Item number 2 is City Attorney Report and Ordinance relative to decreasing the minimum installation depth requirements to adjust the street damage restoration fee for substructure utilities placed via microtrench and similar installation methods.
Great, and I don't think we need for a long discussion on this. We've talked about this a lot. This is a great outgrowth of the, of the changing the damage restoration fee. Part of what it did is it allowed for folks to think more innovatively, and creating this micro-trenching allows for a better reflection of the cost. So I'm very pleased with that, but there is a technical amendment that needs to be made by the City Attorney's Office on this, so the City Attorney could speak that into the record.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, the technical error occurs in Section 2 of the ordinance. It currently reads that Section 6203B of the Los Angeles Administrative Code is amended in its entirety. It actually should state that the Los Angeles Municipal Code is amended, and we request that the committee recommend that the council adopt the new revised ordinance that my office will be transmitting this afternoon.
Great, thank you. And let the record reflect, we've been joined by Ms. Martinez as well. So unless there's any comments or questions, we have, I'm sorry, I'm not going to move on that yet. We have 4 public comment speakers on this item. So I'd like to call up Gerard Wright, followed by DeAndre Valencia. And welcome.
A wonderful Wednesday to you all. Thank you so very much. DeAndre won't be able to speak on behalf of this item. I'm Gerard Wright, Policy Manager from LA County Business Federation. We are a grassroots alliance of more than 180 business organizations representing 400,000 employees that employ 3.5 million people in Los Angeles County. We want to thank Councilmember Blumenfeld's leadership in advancing this ordinance. We also want to give kudos to the Bureau of Engineering with meeting with the business community stakeholders to understand how to accelerate the development of 5G and smart city technology in the city of Los Angeles. Our members view microtrenching as just one delivery option that will reduce the method that is less invasive to dry utilities, such as 5G. and therefore significantly less damage for the street damage restoration fee should be applied, and that's something we want to see brought back. Again, we want to see this move forward, but we want to continue that dialogue so this does not impede upon that progress. So thank you again for your leadership, your help and support, and let's get this past the finish line. Thank you so very much.
Thank you very much. DeAndre Valencia, followed by Armando Flores. What's that?
I said DeAndre is not going to be able to meet up with us. Thank you.
So DeAndre is not here. Armando Flores, followed by Scott Longhurst. Welcome.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Armando Flores, Legislative Affairs Manager with the Valley Industry and Commerce Association, VICA. We represent over 400 businesses in the San Fernando Valley and all throughout the LA area. We are here to express support for this item, as micro-trenching is a helpful option for telecommunication companies to use. So thank you, Councilmember Blumenfield, for bringing this forward. We do, however, continue to have concerns with the street damage restoration fee, because what we are seeing is that the fee often exceeds the cost of the job being completed. So we would like to see some sort of relief. And we look forward to working with you to make some positive changes, and we look forward to seeing this move forward. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Last speaker will be Scott Longhurst. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Chairman Blumenfield and members of the Public Works Committee. My name is Scott Longhurst, and I'm the Government Affairs Manager for Crown Castle, responsible for our efforts in the greater Los Angeles region. On behalf of our team at Crown Castle, we want to express our deep appreciation to you and to your staff for your leadership on this issue and for the opportunity to collaborate on this important initiative. We also want to express our sincere appreciation for the collaboration with members of the city family, especially the Bureau of Engineering. We truly believe in the power of innovation to deliver the economic development and technological progress that the city is seeking. And we believe this is one tool that will measurably speed the deployment of communications technology that will make the city more economically competitive and provide overall higher quality of communication services for your residents and visitors. Already, the prospect of this ordinance is yielding opportunity for the city. One of the nation's leading general contractors is already considering the establishment of an LA office. And because this ordinance will allow projects that we are working on to be priced more competitive, we're working with our vendors on the development of a workforce development initiative with the LA Community College District that you will see a large ramp up in workforce demand and employment opportunities. Thank you very much for your support.
Thank you very much for the comments. Colleagues, unless there is a question or comment on this, I'm going to ask that we move it with as amended by the city attorney. Seeing no objections to that, we will move this item as amended, and that will take us back to item number 1. Mr. Espinosa, if you'd read that into the record, please.
Item number 1 is a report from the Bureau of Street Services relative to the City Coordinated Street Furniture Program. This is also referred to the Budget and Finance Committee.
Great, and I think we will start with our public comment cards on this, of which we have a number. First person just put themselves down as KK. May have been a mistake, or there may be someone with those initials. Is there a KK? Okay, next person is Ellen Endo, followed by Elise Swanson. Welcome.
Good afternoon. My name is Ellen Endo, and I am with the Little Tokyo Business Association, which also manages the Little Tokyo Bid and consists of over 400 businesses in Little Tokyo, mostly small businesses. And we want to speak in favor of this proposal. We are a 135-year-old community, but that doesn't mean we're opposed to modern new amenities, and we think this is a way to promote connectivity and also allow our visitors, which are growing every year, thank goodness, to find places. We have over 100 restaurants, which means it would be nice to have be able to access a list of those restaurants, for example. And so we're speaking on behalf of this proposal. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Next we have Elise Swanson, followed by Ed Robles.
Good afternoon. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. My name is Elise Swanson. I'm President and CEO of the San Pedro Chamber of Commerce, On behalf of our Chamber of Commerce and our Board of Directors representing more than 400 businesses in San Pedro, we would like to thank Street Services for their effort to provide solutions that work for the city, its residents, merchants, and visitors alike. Our community needs the ability to provide more real-time information and services in heavily trafficked areas. We do a lot of work in tourism along the LA waterfront. With less than 10 years before LA hosts the Olympic Games, we are excited about what types of smart technology can be deployed to assist with wayfinding and sharing of information with residents and the tourists we serve. We support the report as written and encourage this committee to approve it. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Mr. Ed Robles, followed by Chris Larson. Welcome.
Good afternoon. I'm Ed Robles, Deputy Director of Waterfront and Commercial Development for the Harbor Department, and I'm here to ask or to express my support in the Department of Public Works report. As you may or may not know, the Harbor Department has spent millions over the last few years in developing public access for the public to the waterfront of America's port, and this would go a long way to modernizing and helping direct the public to all the new amenities and exciting development that we have going on down there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chris Larson, followed by Jessica Meany.
Good afternoon, members of the committee. Chris Larson, I'm the president and CEO of the Hollywood Business Improvement District. We are proud partners with Councilmember O'Farrell, and I'm a resident in Councilmember Rue's district. But we're here in support of the recommendations included in the report. We think it opens the door for a number of new, not only technologies, but basic amenities within our streetscape. We are a district that relies on millions and millions of tourists to help to come to our community and really support our economy. And many of those basic amenities are new additions that could be delivered through some of these recommendations. So I've also submitted detailed recommendations or support online. And so I just want to reiterate that support here for you today. Thank you.
Thank you. Jessica Meany, followed by Howard Sunken.
Good afternoon, committee members. My name is Jessica Meany from the Transportation Advocacy Group Investing in Place. Very supportive of continued conversations on improving our public right-of-way. We are in dire need of bus shelters, shade, sidewalk improvements. Just a couple of questions about this. It reads a lot to me about commercializing our public space. I jumped to questions of where would the revenue go? Who's benefiting? Are we putting it back into sidewalks? Are we putting it back into bus shelters? How are we defining high-need communities? My work as an advocate with the city on sidewalks, we frequently hear piecemeal programs, things here and there. Last year alone, we fixed 18 miles of sidewalks when over 4,000 are broken. Is this an opportunity to have a larger vision for what we want for our sidewalks, particularly for people who are catching the bus, walking, and rolling? Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, Howard Sunken, welcome.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members. I'd like to read a letter that I believe was delivered to everybody this morning by Outfront to Co. Last fall, your committee requested the Bureau of Street Services and Outfront to Co. work closely and continue to negotiate with the city staff to bring about a new coordinated street furniture contract. Outfront to Co. worked very closely with Adele and his team in an attempt to achieve an agreement that would provide for an immediate increase in the number of transit shelters with enhanced amenities and increase the number of automatic pay toilets. The goal of these negotiations was to improve conditions for the citizens of Los Angeles who are dependent on the city's transportation network while at the same time maximizing revenue of the city of Los Angeles. Unfortunately, we've been unable to achieve consensus on the terms of such an agreement, and as a result, no agreement is before the board today. We can assure you that it wasn't a result of the lack of hard work on behalf of both Street Services and Outfront to Co. Everybody worked diligently to bring about a new agreement. We have reviewed the October 29th staff recommendation, and we look forward to working very closely with the city, the department, and if there's anything we can do along the way, we're here. Francois and I are here to answer any questions you may have. Great, thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we'll have Adele from Street Services come forward and present on this item.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, actually, and honorable council members. Adele Hashkali, General Manager, Director of Streets LA Bureau of Street Services. The report before you today is Streets LA's recommendation on how to address the coordinated street furniture program and the 20-year contract which expires at the end of 2021. I want to first start with acknowledging and thanking Outfront JCDecaux for working with us and spending the time to negotiate a potential extension, which, as you heard, we're not able to reach. But also I want to thank the community members who came in support, and also some of these questions that were raised at the end. We want to continue the process of listening and adjusting what we need to do to make sure that what we provide is a street furniture program that meets the needs of the community, and that's the number one priority for us. A year ago, your committee directed Streets LA to continue to negotiate with the current contractor Outfront JCDecaux towards a possible update extension of the 20-year contract that we have in place now. We spent several months negotiating and trying to reach a win-win agreement. I was personally engaged in these negotiations. The street furniture program is an important program for the city, but we've learned a lot since the contract was written back in 2001, and the city's needs and technology have evolved to what we are here today. It's my belief that the program can be significantly improved with more transit shelters to support public transit use and our residents, especially in the community that has the highest ridership of transit and the higher exposure to heat. We also believe that the program requires an updated and modernized furniture that better integrates technology and serve our residents. And also we believe that the program should be without exclusivity, that is more agile and adaptable, that can respond to what new ideas and needs come up for the city to decide on during the contract negotiations. Revenue sharing is also critical. It's not the only thing, but it's a critical element to ensure that the city received fair revenue back, that we can invest back into our infrastructure and service to our communities. However, after lengthy negotiations, we were not able to secure these improvements satisfactorily in the extension, and that's why we're before you here today. We're recommending that your committee agree with our recommendation that the existing contract should expire by its end of the term of December 2021, and you authorize Streets LA and the Board of Public Works to use the request for information and request for proposal process to solicit proposals to bring market competition into the process and to modernize the street furniture program. That's my comments. I'm open to any questions to address from your committee.
Just want to emphasize, based on some of the comments the public made, when you talk about market competition, we're talking about competition to make our furniture better and more usable for our transit riders. Because for me, that's a big goal of all of this is street furniture is there to help with mobility, to help with shade, to help with making the experience of people who are using our transit as comfortable and as good as possible. So now, I wanted to ask a couple of specific questions. You know, do you think there's enough competition in this marketplace? Because it's such a niche marketplace for street furniture. And along those lines, is the current contractor going to have an advantage in this RFP, a disadvantage? How are we going to keep it fair to everybody? And I'm assuming they're going to be invited to bid in the RFP. And how do we assure everyone that it will be a fair process?
Mr. Chair, thank you for the question. I want to start by echoing what you said. Our number one priority is to provide street furniture program, transit shelters that can enhance the quality of life for our residents, making it safe for them to go to work, go home, use transit, but that's the number one priority. That's what's driving this program. Second is, you mentioned about the availability of other competitors. Yes, they are. And we have hired an expert to be our advisor in this matter, and we know that there is a number of companies who are interested in bidding on this, and will provide us, I think, a fair look at what's available and hopefully provide a competition for everyone. Regarding the existing contractor, Outfront JCDecaux, we appreciate the 18 years of service and what they've done, and they are very intimately aware of the needs of the city. And so I believe they have an advantage on everybody just because they were the previous contractor. But I think to me is they are in the best position to submit the best proposal. So they're not going to be excluded. What we'd like to do is to be fair to everyone and put this on the table and make sure that the best proposal that meets the needs of the cities is the one that we choose. So we welcome that Outfront Jessica is interested in continuing to work with us, and like others, we invite other companies to come in because what we're looking for is the best ideas, the most cost-effective way of deployment, and addressing the needs quick and fast so we can really get going and provide our community the shelters they need.
Do you think there are other business models like sharing in capital costs that could be explored through the RFP process?
Yes, I believe strongly in that option because, it's risk sharing, and there's a lot of, in construction contracts and other contracts, there's a lot of ideas that have been used in the past. So sharing in the capital costs could be an option to remove some of the risk from other bidders. So we're going to put that on the table as part of the RFP. So there'll be options for bidders to come in, including sharing in the capital investment or having a turnkey operation. But let the market decide and see what's best for the city's interest and the city's needs.
Okay. I have a number of questions. I'm just going to ask one more, then I'm going to open it up to my colleagues, and then I may ask some more after that. But in the event that a new vendor is selected, will the results result in an interruption in service when suddenly the contractor has to start removing the transit shelters that already are installed, or how do we ensure that that there's a smooth process?
The existing shelters that we have today are owned by the city at the expiration of this contract. We believe that they can continue to be in service, and we will work on the transition to have them be operational by the expiration of this contract. The timing of us being before you today is critical because we want to start the process of procuring and getting the RFP out so we can have a contract in place, a selected contractor in place by the summer of 2021 so we can have a smooth transition. Also, what we're working on is we're installing, as we speak today, facilities to enhance the experience of the riders. So we're adding 700 benches with shade across the city. We are going to be working as part of the recommendation of the report with the CEO and the CLA and the council and the mayor on funding to get us a head start on installing transit shelters in the areas that are most critical, where we have the highest ridership and the highest exposure to sun and heat. So I'm confident that there'll be no loss in service by our residents, and actually you'll see an improvement hopefully by adding additional bus benches and shades in addition to the new shelters that we'll look at adding hopefully in the future.
Great. Mr. O'Farrell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Adele. So just that last question you asked was on my list as well. So the city will own all of the assets, including the public toilets, the kiosks, all the benches, all the shelters, everything?
The toilets are the 14 toilets that we have in the city are the only ones that we would not own. And we would plan to meet with the existing contractor to find an exit strategy, either a rental or etc. However, the existing transit shelters, the 1,866 that we have, those are owned by the city. And except we need to work through the advertising, which that's why when we work with the selection of the new contractor, deployment and the speed of deployment will be a critical factor in the selection of who comes in the city and become the contractor.
There are a couple of issues with that we can't address at this moment, but we have service centers that we've established for people experiencing homelessness, and we use those toilets and we actually staff them. And that program will probably only increase in the next year and a half, 2 years. So that'll be a challenge because we don't want that service to just be taken away because a contract ends. So that's something we'll need to
and will not be
address.
taken away, sir. I will assure you right here.
So we would continue leasing them or something?
Yes, we
don't
will
own
work
them?
in agreement with our partner in Outfront JCDecaux on how we continue the toilets to ensure the services. However, there is a bigger discussion we're working on of expanding public toilets through the city for public health, and that's something that we're separating from this contract. And I think because of the urgency of public health, we're going to be working on a proposal and a plan forward on that area.
And then something else that would need to be addressed if DeCo doesn't apply again, or if they do and someone else is awarded the contract, and we have this inventory that's pretty extensive of street furniture and kiosks, et cetera, it'll need to be addressed in terms of the aesthetics that might be completely different from what's on the street now, and how that would be our inventory that we now own, how that will be phased out or reincorporated into the new look of the assets.
96% of the existing street shelters are older than 10 years. Some of them are 20 years and older. So it's time for them to be replaced. And we're going to be working through Cultural Affairs, working with the community on state-of-the-art street furniture that reflect the community. So we're going to have some examples that can be used, and we'll have probably a list of templates of a number of designs that can be chosen by community and by the council offices. So I see what we're doing is right now putting something back to state-of-the-art. They need to be replaced. They're older than 10 years old, and some of them are 20. And so it's time for us to replace them, and that will be done through a process as we move on the deployment area.
Of course, the objective is in terms of revenue sharing based on advertising revenue. And part of the challenge, I think, with our current contractor has been that I believe that council offices have veto power and have actually declined accepting advertising in certain neighborhoods where it would generate more revenue. So that's a statistical disadvantage for perhaps the current contractor or future contractors. How would that issue be dealt with?
So I want to stress the priority of the city. The priority of the city is to deploy street furniture and shelters based on the city's need. Revenue is a factor, but it's not the primary factor. So you'll see in the new contract an increase in the number of street shelters or transit shelters without advertising, because our drive is not revenue only. And that's going to be, right now we have 10% of the transit shelters are non-advertising, and we think that number will go higher. But what we're trying to do is go away from approving one location at a time to developing a deployment plan that we will have to work with each of the council offices to do an agreement on these locations and where they are and what kind of street shelters we'll have or transit shelters we'll have, but have it approved a year at a time and have a permit for the entire deployment for that 1 year, so we can expedite the delivery, minimize delay, and get the community what they need. And that's something we're going to be working very hard on. We discussed it with many of you, with the council offices, and I think we need to go away from what we had 20 years ago to something that's a lot more streamlined and forward-thinking.
And Mr. Chair, I'm going to ask two more questions, and then I'll stop, and I'm going to have more as well, unless, of course, the questions that I have get asked. But in terms of generating revenue, it doesn't matter where the most revenue is generated from in terms of advertising dollars. Regardless of where it's generated from, the revenue is spread equitably amongst all 15 council districts. Is that correct?
The existing contract, the revenue, 50% of it goes to the general fund, and 50% is distributed across the council offices for investments back into council office specific infrastructure investments.
From where the money is generated from?
Yes.
Not equitably across the 15
I think it's
districts?
equitable across the 15, yes.
Yeah.
But
So
50% goes to the general fund and 50%.
And then the other 50 is spread
Exactly.
equitably.
Yes.
But just to clarify, it's spread equally.
Equally.
Yeah, so
Okay.
that was
Yes.
my
Exactly,
assumption. I wanted to make
exactly.
sure. And then would that change, or would that be potentially one of the requirements in the new RFP.
That's a,
That same arrangement.
That's a council policy decision. Right now, we are not contemplating any change in that. However, what we want to be talking about is services. So at this point, we're not contemplating any change to the distribution of the revenue and how it's going to be used. But the key thing is, what we want to do is that revenue should be invested back in the infrastructure and the community that we have to enhance services. So, you know, I know your offices and council offices use the money to invest in sidewalks, in enhanced streets, in tree trimming. That's how we do it. And we think we should continue investing back, because the key thing is to enhance the quality of life for residents that use our sidewalks, our streets.
And then last question before I pause, and that is, speaking of revenue and generation, we're moving more and more to digital displays. And you heard Mr. Larson from the Hollywood Entertainment District bid talk about how a digital sort of touch screen, high-tech, newer technology, modern technology is very desired in Hollywood, but perhaps that same technology is not desired in Glass L Park, where I live, for example, where it's a quieter, more residential neighborhood, or Atwater Village. So my question is, what types of digital displays might end up in neighborhoods that currently don't have them, and what would be our ability to have oversight when the new terms are being drafted? Where would that be?
Yeah, I mean, that's why we're doing a request for information, to know what's out there. But the technology today about digital advertising is different than what it was 10 years ago. The illumination looks exactly the same as you're seeing a static advertising. It doesn't have the animation. It's not live. So really, the public will not tell the difference between static and digital. The only thing that I'm excited about is what's available to the public to use: wayfinding, access to next bus, access to homeless shelters, access to jobs. If we're able to integrate all these things into service for our residents that use transit, that sometimes do not have access to information, I think we're doing something better. But we want to work with each of the council offices and respect what the community wants. But the technology today is much, much better than what it was years ago, and it's the digital information is going to be very not intrusive to their life. But that's something we will show you as part of the proposals, and hopefully we'll have displays to really get people to see what it looks like. But the ones I've seen, they are completely the same as static advertising.
I think it's going to be really important to the neighborhoods that we don't approach this with a one-size-fits-all sort of approach, because there's a real, I think, warranted concern about the expansion of digital anything, especially in neighborhoods that really resist various forms of light pollution, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that'll have to be something very, very carefully considered in terms of what's allowable. And with that, we also wouldn't want to give some sort of false sense that unrealistic estimation of revenue coming in from advertising dollars, if that's going to be limited in some of the neighborhoods.
Sure.
So, thank you.
Understood. And just to add to that, Marker, I think we need to distinguish between inward-facing and outward-facing. You know, it's one thing to have movement that's facing into the bus stop for the people who are using the transit, and it's quite another to be facing the cars that are on the street and potentially causing distractions and
Sure.
those issues. Colleagues, additional questions? Ms. Martinez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Adele, I was wondering if you can elaborate on recommendation number 8 on the BSS report, which talks about replacing the existing approval process for installing the street furniture with a more streamlined process based on the approval of a development plan 1 year at a time. Currently, the way it works, as I understand, is street furniture is approved on a case-by-case basis. So what does that look like?
So one of the obstacles that we looked at, as I said, we've learned a lot from review in the last 20 years, 18 years of deployment. As you know, the previous contract has a requirement that each location gets reviewed and approved individually.
Mm-hmm.
And that takes a huge amount of time and effort, and that limits the ability to install adequate number of shelters in time. So what I recommended, and what I'm recommending, and I'll bring that forward to you as part of the full contract in the future, and is to develop a deployment plan for the whole year and have it before you to agree to it as a council member, but also as a city. And we will agree on these locations, so we don't have to come back to you individually for you to approve each one by one. We will look at them holistically every year. So it's a 5-year deployment plan, 3-year deployment plan. We will come to you every year and show you ahead of time where we're going to have these installed and have a concurrence with you and move forward on that effort instead of having it done one at a time, which that is really what held us back. And I don't want to go through the same process again, because the key is to deploy as many as we can to really meet the needs of the public.
And the second question I had, so what would happen to this program in the interim? What does the department have planned between now and the time you issue the new RFP? Because I know there's a lot of pending challenges with this contractual agreement.
So what we have, let's give example, is in your district. So CD6, for example, we have the total number of transit stops is 533 right now.
Say that again?
533 in your district. So stops with benches only is 2621. Stops with shelters only is 72. Stops with shelters and benches is 41. The total existing stops with some kind of a furniture supporting the use is 374. That's about 70% coverage. What we plan to do from now on, the first step is getting this RFP quickly out so we can have a contractor ready to go come December 21st, 2021. What we're doing is we have 750 benches being deployed across the city with shade, and every district will get approximately 50 benches to be installed in key critical areas based on transit use and heat. We've done mapping where the highest transit users are and where the highest heat exposure. So in every council district, we have these locations mapped and defined. So we're moving quickly right now with deployment of bus benches and shades. So that's one method. We're going to be working through the council, the CEO and CLA and the mayor on getting some funding through the next budget that we can start going quickly and installing street furniture like transit shelters in the most critical areas. In your district, there's 15 locations that we identify as critical. And the same thing we have in every council district. So I believe that we should work hard on getting these 15 locations initially addressed by benches and shade, and then quickly transitioned into a transit shelter. So we have the plan in place, and we have an interim, but as soon as we have the contractor on board, they can start building, as soon as we give them notice to proceed before the contract expires. So we have all these plans together, and I think the planning and the understanding and what we're putting forward, I think will start meeting the needs. And we're hoping, hopefully, we should have at least 85%. The goal is to have a minimum 75% ridership coverage in each of the council offices. And in some areas that have high heat and high transit users, we may have a higher number because of the heat. In your district, we project we'll get to about 85% coverage in every transit stop, hopefully.
So, Mr. Chair, the last thing I want to say about this, and thank you for answering my questions, Adele. I know I've asked you numerous questions over the course of the year trying to deal with this issue. I'm not going to sugarcoat this, and I want to make sure everyone understands that accountability is critical to this. If we're going to go down this road, we need to ensure that services are not going to be interrupted. I cannot explain to a single mom in my district who has to take the bus to work every single day, maybe 2 jobs to try to, feed her kids, that she doesn't have a bench or a shelter to be able to wait for her bus. So not all communities are created equal, and I think we've had that conversation before. I just want to ensure that the process that you're asking us to adopt today is not going to have any type of interruption, especially to people who depend on mass transit.
And
Councilwoman, I think I appreciate what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. And you'll have my commitment, because that's something I do not want. And if you look at why we're moving forward to a new contract, over the last 10 years, we haven't installed many transit shelters.
But we don't have sidewalks in parts of my district. I mean, we've been failing for the last 4 decades. And we continue to fail the same communities over and over again. So all I'm trying to tell folks here is we need to ensure we get to those communities. And if we're going to go down this road, we need to ensure that we're going to meet our goals and that we don't come back here 6 months from now because we either don't have the resources or the manpower to be able to do this the right way.
And I appreciate what you're saying. I'm 100% behind equity and service. And that's why we are looking at the metrics for us to deploy based on the ridership and where people use transit, but also where people are exposed to the most heat. And those two factors are critical to me, so I've done the analysis. And I appreciate what you're saying because it's all about enhancing the quality of life for people everywhere. This is what our mission is, and I believe strongly in it personally, strongly. But I need your support. I need the mayor's support, the budget committee's support, the council's support to move forward. Without your support financially and in policy, I cannot do my job. So I'd love to continue serving, and I think I'm really excited about delivering, and I think I've done good share of delivering what you needed, and I've shown that I can deliver. But I need to continue to work with you on moving the bar forward because our job, all of us, is to make sure that we serve our community with equity, with dignity, and with support. And I'm here for you, and I'm committing to you that you will not see a decline in service, you'll see an improvement in service.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Great. And thank you, Adele. We do appreciate you, and you've been doing a tremendous job, so I appreciate that. Following up, though, the current contract, how much did it deliver to the city in terms of the furniture, and how does that compare to what you think this new contract will get us moving forward?
I mean, if you look at just the transit shelters by itself, the goal was 20 years ago was to put in 2,500 transit shelters. What was added by the existing contractor was 650, 660. There was existing prior to that about 1,200 shelters were before the 20-year contract. And, I'm not going to blame who was the reason for not deploying, because I think the process was cumbersome. We put a lot of roadblocks in the way. And my goal is to make sure that I deliver on having 3,000 transit shelters operational in this city within hopefully the first 3 to 5 years, depending on the contract that we hire, because deployment is critical. So we're going to go from 2,000, 1866, to 3,000, hopefully, and that should provide us a minimum 75% coverage in each council district.
Great. Mr. O'Farrell.
Thank you. So some of the issues were right-of-way issues. I could give you half a dozen sites in Elysian Valley and probably keep going, because our own city sidewalks are too narrow to actually put a shelter over. And some of the locations are near Caltrans, so there are state issues that come into play. So all we could do is put a bench open to the elements, and that's the best we could do because of our own regulations and the ADA regulations as well. I don't know how we address that, but that's a real issue in terms of, exposure to the elements and people having safe access just to get to those benches, much less have some protection when they're there waiting for transit.
Sure. I agree with you. I mean, accessibility is critical, and having a accessible sidewalk and transit shelter is critical for us. And I agree, I've seen transit stops that do not have except a piece of dirt, and it's in the middle of dirt and people standing around it, so it's not acceptable. But I want to say is there's technology out there, and the old transit shelter that we think of may not be the transit shelters in every place. I've seen other places where actually they have a hanging canopy from a wall with a bench attached to the wall to have a canopy, and so we can be innovative and creative, and that's why we're working with the mayor's chief design officer, Chris Hawthorne, and others, of how we can open this and take some of these limitations away. And that's what I'm looking for, these ideas from other places, and that's why it's good to go out and to a competitive process, because having folks that give us a menu of different street
transit shelters that can meet some of these restrictions will be ones that we're going to be looking at and entertaining as part of the final decision.
So, Mr. Chair and Adele and colleagues, what's I think is important when we do this RFP, let's take off our rose-colored glasses and let's really approach this realistically with sustainable deliverables, not an approach where, well, we're going to generate more revenue than ever from this part of the city when I feel that the same regulatory obstacles are going to firmly be in place like they always have been unless we can look at it differently. And then I have concerns about new media, i.e. digital, which is coming, and we need to embrace it and make it work for us. But in terms of what you said, Mr. Blumenfield, as far as out-facing or interfacing, I think we're going to have to define in advance of an RFP with council input on exactly which neighborhoods that can be accommodated in and which neighborhoods it may not be able to be accommodated in, so that once we get to an RFP situation, that we know exactly what we're putting out there, so that we, like I mentioned, really put something that's realistic and sustainable, and so that all of the bidders know full well what they're getting into. That's what's most important to me.
Makes sense.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions, colleagues? Okay. Raj Khalil, appreciate the presentation. I'm going to recommend that we adopt the recommendations in the Bureau of Street Services report dated October 29, 2019. Seeing no objection, that will be the order. Thank you very much. So that takes us, I believe, to item number 8. Is that correct? You could read that into the record.
Item number 8 is a report from the city engineer relative to the vacation of a portion of Wilshire Boulevard between Spalding Avenue and Stanley Avenue. It's an airspace vacation.
Great. We have a number of public comment cards on this. We're going to start as courtesy with Supervisor Kuehl's office, Maria Chan Castillo, and followed by, we'll have the petitioner, Michael Gavan, after that, and then we have public comments. Both Ms. Castillo and Mr. Gavan, we get 2 minutes, and then public comment would be 1 minute per person after that. So,
okay,
welcome.
good. I don't have to talk like a firecracker. Hi, thank you. I'm Maria Chan Castillo, and I'm representing Supervisor Sheila Kuehl. Thank you very much for hearing us. As you probably may know, that this project has been in the works since 2014, so it's been a 5-year journey for LACMA. And Board of Supervisors approved and certified the EIR just this year in April. So Supervisor is very excited about the project. We believe that the transformation of the building will completely change the arts and cultural landscape of Wilshire Boulevard for the LA region, and we hope we have your support. We have a team of folks here from LACMA to answer any questions that you have, and we are glad we're at this journey and very excited. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Appreciate you making the walk down here. Yes. Mr. Gavan, for 2 minutes as the petitioner.
Thanks. Good afternoon, Chairman and members of the Public Works and Gang Reduction Committee. It's great to be here, and I want to thank the Bureau of Engineering Land Development Group for preparing the BOE Airspace Vacation Report you're considering today. The airspace vacation is necessary to allow the construction of the new building for the permanent collection, for LACMA's permanent collection that spans over Wilshire Boulevard. The new museum crosses Wilshire Boulevard in large part to avoid being close to the La Brea tar pits, which is currently an active archaeological site that must be preserved for future research and excavation. We worked closely with our friends at NHM in conceiving this. It's also a new vision for an art museum, one that's transparent and welcoming for visitors, as well as creating more accessibility for our collections. The vision of the museum is one that's horizontal, non-hierarchical. All collections, all cultures are on one level with no obvious front or no back. None are privileged in front of another. The The building, as you know, was approved, and the final environmental impact report was certified by the County Board of Supervisors earlier this year in April. The new museum is designed by Peter Zumthor, who's one of the most accomplished and celebrated architects alive, has won probably every prize there is to win in architecture. It's concrete, steel, and glass, and as I said, it's organized with underground space, amenities on the park level, and then a single exhibition level that's elevated above grade, and it allows a major public benefit of creating 3.5 additional acres of open space. The raised exhibition level also allows visual access into the park from Wilshire Boulevard. Currently, there's a 80-foot tall wall there, the Art of the Americas building, which blocks that. So it creates real connection to Hancock Park from Wilshire Boulevard. That was one of the main goals of the street level. Lifting the exhibition level creates additional ground uses fronting Wilshire Boulevard. It would activate and enliven the sidewalk and street. We're going to have cafes, outdoor dining, outdoor space with artwork, and a landscape on the street median. I respectfully request that the committee approve the vacation of the airspace. It's a small portion of the new museum street frontage and located well above the street, 19 feet above. Full build-out will not affect the operation of the street below, and it will really open up the entire space for the public as well as serving the museum. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Now we have a number of public comment cards, and before all the public comment cards, I do want to say to everyone, we are looking as a committee solely at the issue of the airspace vacation. We are not in a position to relitigate the EIR. We're not in a position to do the work of the supervisor's office. We have a very limited mission, so I would ask for folks to focus on the question before us. That being said, we could hear from Don Hudson, followed by Henry Moyland. Welcome.
Good afternoon, honorable council members. I'm Dawn Hudson, the CEO of the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. I want to take a minute to thank you all for your support of our Academy Museum of Motion Pictures, especially our council member, David Rue, who's been a big supporter and a big fan of movies. Thank you for that. And I'm here now in support of our neighbors and colleagues at LACMA and for their airspace vacation, their new building project, their next step into the future. We are excited to be on the campus of LACMA. We're excited to support this building that will have public spaces that our visitors will get to attend, and all of Los Angeles will get to attend. We support the vision, this new vision of the cultural environmental growth for Los Angeles that Michael Govan has outlined, and we are proud to be a part of the continued growth of Los Angeles as a world-class cultural destination with this new project. I was hoping to be played off. Okay, there.
Thank you. Good afternoon, gentlemen. Henry Van Moylen, Miracle Mile Forward, and a member of Mid-City West Community Council. I want to express my strong support for the airspace vacation requested by LACMA. As a resident of Miracle Mile, I believe the new LACMA will revitalize our greatest amenity and boost local businesses. In fact, it is vital for Miracle Mile's revival. We will also benefit from the newly created park space. Spanning Wilshire will achieve a horizontal exhibition space instead of the disorganized mishmash we have now. Architecturally, there is no convincing argument for keeping the Pereira or Art of the Americas buildings. We have two good Pereira buildings nearby, CBS and 8484 Wilshire. We do not need unsuccessful examples. Instead, we will get enhanced vistas of piano buildings and Japanese pavilion. This is all to the good. Thank you.
Ron Miller, followed by Laurie, Benson, Varga. Welcome, Mr. Miller.
Good afternoon. Ron Miller, Executive Secretary of the LA Orange County Building Trades. And I'm here in support of this airspace vacation. Of course, this project's going to be built by the skilled, trained men and women of the building trades, as most of all the museum buildings have been built. But on top of that, this design will also improve the street level experience for pedestrians and enhance pedestrian safety. It will work in concert with the new Purple Line station. Guess who's building that? The building trades. So it makes the museum totally accessible. It opens up a lot of open space for the general public, and I think it helps the community to be to visit the museum, makes it more friendly. So we hope you support this airspace vacation. Thank you.
Thank you. Laurie Benson, followed by Janet Rappaport.
I'm Laurie Benson Varga. I'm the President Director of the Natural History Museums of LA County, which oversees La Brea Tar Pits. And there are 2 points that I want to make. First, the design allows for the protection of the geological research at La Brea Tar Pits. That was a very important feature, and I think the conversations with LACMA have been incredibly productive around that. So that's really critical to us in our work. Secondly, the elevated design allows for sight lines from Wilshire all the way through to the park. We think it will be more welcoming, more inviting to the park as a whole, and also, I think, present the tar pits and the park overall as much more of a unified destination for Los Angeles, as well as for the many visitors from around the world who come to see us. So we are supportive of the request and hope that you will make it. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Next, Janet Rappaport, Joe, then followed by Joe Sola and Adam Silverman.
Good afternoon. My name is Janet Bryson Rappaport, and I am honored to be here in support of LACMA. I grew up in Los Angeles, and in 1965, when LACMA was opened on Wilshire, I went there all the time. That was also the year that I graduated high school at University High School right in West Los Angeles. I have been on the board for 19 years, and I am very proud of that commitment. During that time, I have seen LACMA grow and come alive with visitors. People come there just to sort of hang out. It has often been called the living room of Los Angeles. I am proud of LACMA's.
Sorry, we have a 1 minute limit, and we have to be fair.
All right,
There's a
I'll
lot of
finish
speakers
up.
lined up.
I'm very proud of LACMA's success, and I'm very excited about the new building. Please support LACMA's request that is in front of you today. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Joe Sola, followed by Adam Silverman.
If I can make a quick comment, I thank all the new people who are here at City Council. Unfortunately, you only get 1 minute to speak because we have a tremendous number of people who signed up to speak for this item as well as the next item. So we want to be fair to all people, but we really thank you for coming out here today.
Hello, hi, my name is Joe Sola. I'm an artist living in Los Angeles, and I support the LACMA building project. Peter Zumter is an amazing architect. I've been to several of his buildings in Europe, and their works of art and their use of light and material. And the building spanning Wilshire Boulevard is an outstanding idea for our city and really reflects our culture. We are lucky to have one of his projects in our city. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Adam Silverman, followed by Will Wright.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Adam Silverman. I'm an artist. I've been living and working in Los Angeles for the last 31 years. I'm here to voice support for the project as well. What better way for a building to engage with Los Angeles on its own terms than to span over a major city boulevard and have a direct dialogue with the thousands of cars passing by LACMA each day? In the same way that Chris Burden's piece Urban Light in front of LACMA uses a Los Angeles vernacular of street lamps to create an important and beloved symbol of Los Angeles, I believe that the design of Peter Zumthor's building became even stronger when it reached across Wilshire Boulevard to engage our city at both the vehicular and vernacular level. Thanks.
Thank you. Will Wright, followed by Luis Bonet.
Good afternoon. My name is Will Wright. I'm here to support your street vacation request along Wilshire Boulevard. And in fact, I'd like to sort of emphasize something that you might not think about. We have 6,400 miles of roads in the city of Los Angeles. It's a lot of land that can be reprogrammed. So I think you might want to look at this in the 3rd Street, your bridge to City Hall East as examples of what we can do to start to really reprogram and the function in the form of our city with airspace rights over some of our right-of-ways. Thank you.
Thank you. Luis Bonet, followed by Kirsten Hovland. Welcome. And pull the mic down too so we can hear you.
My name is Louise Bonnet. I'm an artist living here in Los Angeles since 1994, and I'm here in full support of the LACMA building project, which I believe will be an asset to this city. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Kirsten Hovland, followed by Emery Martin.
Hello. As a resident of Los Angeles, an artist, and a small business owner who employs and supports Los Angeles artists, I deeply value the presence of the museum in the city and enthusiastically support the vision for its future as proposed by LACMA's building plan. The light, air, and streets of Los Angeles have inspired generations of artists of all disciplines who live and work here. The design as proposed, both the architecture plan on the Wilshire campus and the satellite locations, create a place to view the art collections while directly engaging those aspects of the city, creating unprecedented context and connection between the environment of the city and the art on view within it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Emery Martin, followed by Jose Blondin. Welcome.
Hello, my name is Emery Martin. I'm an artist and co-founder and partner of Electronic Countermeasures, a multidisciplinary creative studio working in LA across LA, the country, and internationally. So I am in strong support of the vacation of the airspace in favor of the LACMA building plan. I see it as a way of moving the city forward, both as an art capital within the United States, but also internationally. It's something that's going to be pushing the bounds of art making, as well as architecture, but also the city, and finding new avenues in which we can explore space, which Los Angeles has a long history of doing so. And yeah, that would be it. Thank you.
Thank you. Jose Blondin, followed by Justin Baker. And if I've called your name, you can line up behind the next person so we can keep things moving. So, Jose Blondin.
Hello, my name is Jose Blondet, and I just came here to support LACMA.
Wonderful, thank you. Justin Baker, followed by Richard Shave.
Good afternoon. I'm Justin Baker, a small business owner in Los Angeles that helps through social media and creative media support, create, and tell stories of creators, artists, organizations, and helps promote good stories in our city. I support the LACMA project and the airspace vacation. As the grandson of a museum owner myself, I grew up always recognizing the value of preserving history, asking strong questions about the world that we live in, and giving great care to the important conversation that bold, visible, and interactive works of art and art movements bring us in all forms. What conversations and symbolism will we create about this city and of the wider world? As an artist and former arts educator of about 10 years, my mission will always be to promote lifelong learning. We've seen time and time again that what makes us most human and drives meaning to our existence lies in what questions we provoke and inspire a generation to answer in the world that we live in with our art. Thank you.
Thank you. Richard Shave, followed by Risa.
Hello, my name is Richard Shave, and I'm a board member of the California Public Benefit Corporation Save LACMA, and I'm here in opposition of the street vacation. We have deep concerns about the street vacation. There's a lawsuit pending against the CEQA review. There are not a lot of concrete plans still about the structure. We have grave concerns about giving the air rights away for this National Scenic Byway, Wilshire Boulevard. We think it is a tremendously important decision which the city should not make yet. And I oppose it. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you. We have Risa, followed by Alan Page.
Hi. I'd like to speak about the fabric of the city from the perspective of a cyclist, 10 years car-free. I love this idea of going across Wilshire. I support you approving the street vacation. I look forward to the shade.
and I think it would be great to see to be a leading example for how other architecture could help cool our city. Thank you.
Thank you. Alan Page, followed by Karen Constantine. Alan Page? Okay, then Karen Constantine. Okay. If they're not here, Francisco George, followed by Alex Stemkovsky.
Hi, my name is Francisco George. I'm a resident of the area of where LACMA is. I'm also a 20-year educator in LACMA. I'm a volunteer docent. And I was also for 10 years the president of the Harbor Heights HPOC. So I was in this room many times when we were going through the process of getting the HPOC, and this room brings a lot of memories. Anyway, I just hear another speaker talk about being innovative and creative about bus shelters. So if we can just say the same thing about museums, and especially about LACMA, and see how LACMA was creative at trying to go across the street so that they can give the room to the laboratory pits that they needed for the work. So I'm here in full support, and in 2017, LACMA was one of the 10 most Instagrammed museums in the world. Let's make it number 2. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Alex Stemkovsky, followed by Carmen Vargas. Is that out? No, walking the other way. Alex Stemkovsky, not here. Carmen Vargas. Okay, Ravi Gun Inwardena, followed by Sharona Alperin. Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, council members. I'm Ravi Gunawardena, an architect in Los Angeles, and I strongly support the LACMA plan and the necessary airspace vacation. I have been visiting LACMA since I was 9 years old, in 1969, and while I'm an ardent building preservationist in most cases, the original LACMA buildings have already been greatly compromised and would not be feasible for contemporary museums programming. Therefore, I strongly propose the new plan. The proposal by architect Pedro would be a welcome addition to the city's institutional architecture. Its conceptual plan placing all types of art on one level plane is a much needed revision to how art is perceived and presented in this city. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Sharona Alperin, followed by Thao Tran. Is Ms. Alperin here? Okay. Thao Tran, followed by Will B. Thao Tran? Will B? Okay. Frank Escher, followed by Steve Luffman. Mr. Escher, welcome.
Good afternoon. My name is Frank Esch. I'm an architect here in Los Angeles. I strongly support the project. I always have. Wilshire Boulevard is, of course, one of our main streets, and there are very few buildings that we should allow to cross over that. If we were to build a new city hall, which we're not doing, that would be one. The other would be an important public culture institution, not a private one, a public one. So that's why I think that LACMA should be allowed to do that. It would visibly move the important museum into the center of our city. It's a very bold statement. I think this is a fantastic thing to do. The other thing is that this is Southern California. A large covered outdoor space is a really good idea. It will be the living room, it has been mentioned. It will be a space open to the park, open to the street. It will be teeming with life. It's where everyone will be hanging out, and that will be the lobby to the museum. Another really interesting idea. Thank you.
Thank you. Steve Luffman, followed by Rob Hallman.
Good afternoon, Stephen Luffman. Architecture critics and art critics have described the building as a freeway overpass, a toll plaza, a Palm Springs motel, and a giant coffee table. Architecture critic Greg Golden wrote, "No one voluntarily walks under a freeway overpass. The traffic noise is unbearable and nonstop. The effect of so much mass bearing down is oppressive. Underpasses are gloomy, inhumane places. They rob us of our connections with our surroundings, and their shadowy light and echoing acoustics make us feel lonely and lost. Will you let this vanity project violate one of our most important streets? Wilshire Boulevard in the Miracle Mile is currently a scenic highway. Don't grant the rights.
Thank you. Rob Hallman, and our final speaker, followed by our final speaker, Hannah Levy.
Good afternoon, everyone. Rob Holman. I also represent Save LACMA, which is the only legitimate organization, nonprofit organization, that's called Save LACMA. I'm here actually in support of LACMA. I also grew up there. I met my wife there. Our children have been raised there. But we've been deeply concerned about what's been going on with LACMA recently, and I know we're just talking about the overpass here, but it goes along with legacy. And I don't mean to depress everybody in this room, but long after we're all gone, all we will have is our legacy. And our current legacy rests with our children and our grandchildren. And I want to make sure that they understand that we tried our hardest to support this city and let it grow. There's also the concern of finances. We know that $650 million in 2013 dollars is more like $1 billion now. And after all is said and done, there will be a big bill to pay by the taxpayers. Thank you.
Thank you. Our final speaker, public comment speaker, is Hannah Levy. Welcome.
I am an architectural designer, and I strongly support the bridge over Wilshire Boulevard. The existing building, it's like a big wall to the city, and you could pass by the building and not see what's happening, not understand what's going on. The new building will showcase the artwork so that everyone feels like they're part of it, and will bring in new audiences. Also, in response to some of the earlier comments, the design has been developed very fully. The paleontological issues with the La Brea tar pits have been addressed by this design, and I think that issue alone is a deal breaker for this. There's also a great deal of work that has gone into the project and approvals, and it's not worth backtracking that. I feel like as far as a bridge goes, it will connect this building, frame views, and connect the buildings to each other in a way that's more like London or a city that has thought given to the spaces between the buildings.
Thank you very much. Okay, if we could bring Greg Vandergrift to the podium. And if you could, in your comments, try to address some of the public comments that were made related to the airspace street vacation. Floor is yours.
Certainly. Greg Vandergrift, Public Works Engineering, Land Development, GIS Division. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and council members. So, the Bureau of Engineering received an application for vacation of the airspace over Wilshire Boulevard between Spalding and Stanley Avenue. Wilshire Boulevard has a right-of-way of 100 feet. The airspace vacation is for a volume that begins 19 feet above the finished grade and extends to 197 feet above grade. It's similar in concept to the idea of the vacation or of the airspace that we have over Pico Boulevard where the convention center is located. After receiving the application, we submitted to the various departments referrals and requested their recommendations regarding any of the improvements or impacts from the airspace vacation, and conditions are contained in the report that reflect their concerns for the vacation. Primarily, these were conditions related to making sure that we meet the requirements of the mobility plan and provide for sidewalk access. We received no comments from the public during the period when we were doing our investigation and processing the report. Therefore, our conclusion is that there are no impacts to the public access and use for the airspace vacation. We recommend that proceedings move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Rue. You're intimately familiar with this. It's in your district, and I wanted to give you first crack. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I wanted to thank everybody in attendance today for coming. And The application in question today and the decision that's before us, I want to make it absolutely clear that it is only the granting of the airspace vacation or the airspace rights to the County of Los Angeles to bridge LACMA across Wilshire Boulevard. What we're doing today, for those in the audience as well as hearing me on air, is that it is not the approval of this project as a whole. So I want to clarify that the proposed LACMA project, including decisions regarding the design of LACMA project, construction, and all associated environmental reviews for LACMA, are under the purview of LA County and was already approved by the Board of Supervisors. Questions and concerns regarding this project can be directed to the Office of the Los Angeles County Chief Executive Office. But I do want to add that this project has the added benefit of increasing green space on the Miracle Mile. And the new LACMA building south of Wilshire will return 3 acres of land for recreation and create access for excavation and research for the Page Museum. So by removing these buildings currently located in Hancock Park, we can return that space to the park and to the families, the children, and the archaeological research it provides. With that said, I do want to thank LACMA, in particular Michael Govan and your team, for being so accessible and collaborative. I think on anyone who wanted to meet with LACMA, I think you personally went out there. I don't know how you found the time, but you personally met with any neighbor that wanted to meet. So I really thank you and your team for all of your outreach efforts. Anything we asked of you, you did. And I do want to recognize Maria Chong Castillo from Supervisor Sheila Keel's office, who I had a fortunate opportunity to work with her as a colleague back in the county days. Good seeing you here. And of course, once I start recognizing folks too, there's always going to be someone you miss, but I want to thank Ron Miller from the building trades and all the various affiliate museums and community members, as well as acknowledge receipt of the, I guess, hundreds of letters here of support. And I do recognize a lot of the names in here from various community members. With that said, I support the vacation request and request that colleagues with an aye vote.
Colleagues, any other comments or questions? Yeah, Ms. Martinez.
So first of all, I want to really congratulate the visionary work of your staff, Michael, and the artists at LACMA. I think that when I first met with you last week, I had no real idea what this all entailed, and I was completely blown away. So much so that I went home, and at the dinner table, we have a ritual. We talk about one exciting thing that happened to us during the day, and I was sharing with my 10-year-old daughter, who happens to be an artist, of what was coming to LACMA. And she said to tell you, get it done, do it fast, because all the little artists that I go to school with need somewhere to showcase their art. And so I thought it was very telling, not only of a 10-year-old who sees herself as a future artist, which I love and I certainly can appreciate, but she also reminded me of all the little kids that she goes to school with, particularly in the Valley, who don't always have the access to be able to go to museums or have parents who can afford the time to be able to take them. So we need to do that for that generation of children. But I also want to commend the visionary concept of this horizontal concept where all cultures are on one level, and the inclusivity of what that means, especially at this time in our country. So I applaud the artist for that, the architect, and for your vision on making sure that inclusivity was part of what the legacy of LACMA is going to leave. So thank you very much for your hard work. I hope this moves forward in council. I look forward to voting for it there. So just want to say thank you.
Thank you. Well, I should say, I know we're just talking about the street vacation, but I'm excited about this project. You know, LACMA has been a signature for Los Angeles, and it will be even more iconic as it moves forward. And you know, just the opportunities that it provides already, and that it will provide, is incredible. So I'm excited to cast a yes vote today for street vacation. And I'd like to make that as our recommendation, that we adopt the recommendations of the Bureau of Engineering's October 18, 2019 report. Without objection, that will be the order. Thank you. Great. That takes us to our last item, item number 9. Councilman, if you'd read that into the record.
Item number 9 is a report from the city engineer relative to the vacation of a portion of Crescent Heights Boulevard between Sunset Boulevard and Crescent Heights Boulevard.
Great. And we'll start with, if folks who are leaving could do so quietly so we can finish this event and respect the folks who are here on that. We have a number of public comment speakers for this item, and we're going to start with that, with Jacob Jarugi, followed by Richard Shave.
Council members, on behalf of the Hollywood Chamber of Commerce and the business community it represents, I am here in strong support of the proposed street vacation at the intersection of Sunset and Crescent Heights. The reorganization of the traffic island will...
Hold this time. Folks, if you could exit quietly so we can hear the speaker. Okay. If you could give him back his time to start. Okay, go ahead.
Start where I was, so it's fine. The reorganization of the traffic island will greatly benefit the Sunset Strip by improving safety for pedestrians and vehicles alike, and adding a green space that will serve to beautify the area. The Hollywood Chamber of Commerce is proud to support the proposed street vacation, and we ask that you move it forward. Thank you.
Thank you. That was Jacob, right? So you're Richard? Is that correct?
Yes, I'm Richard Shave. I'm a private citizen, and I'm here to oppose the street vacation for the proposed project. At the moment, there is no project. They're just seeking to get this entitlement as an abstract concept so they can figure out what to do. I think that's a really poor use of this resource, and I'm going to ask you to reconsider it. Also, Lytton's savings on the site is an important historic resource. I know that's an aside, and I thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you very much. Next, we'll have Keith Nakata, followed by Rory Barish. Welcome.
Good afternoon. I'm Keith Nakata, one of the founders of Friends of Lytton Savings, HCM number 1137 at 8150 Sunset, currently set for demolition. The Second District Appellate Court in March of 2018 ruled that the City of Los Angeles hold a public hearing regarding the street vacation to allow for public comment. At Monday night's Hollywood Hills West Neighborhood Council Plum meeting, where changes to the project were proposed, Councilmember Rue's representative announced that the council member had already decided to support the street vacation based on discussions with Metro and DOT. Unfortunately, this was prior to deliberation by the committee, which ultimately resulted in a vote against the street vacation and against the movement of the bus stop, which had been previously approved for a different location during the Plum approval on 10/25/16 of the project. I don't believe the court intended that a decision to be taken by the councilperson prior to the hearing and public input. I think the people deserve a transparent and fair process. Thank you.
My name is Rory Barish. I'm opposed to the street vacation at 8150 Sunset, speaking as an owner in the Crescent Heights tract who has a claim to the street that's being removed. This is not an unused alley or street. It is much needed now and it will be in the future as well. There is no way that traffic can flow, nor can vehicles make that right-hand turn if the street is removed. They would have to swing into the other lanes. This was shown to be true, contrary to the biased traffic study done by the developers the other night. It was a failed presentation, and they conceded. You have traffic coming up and down Laurel Canyon, traffic going east and west, cars and trucks loading in and out of 8000 and 8150. Proposing to take a street away, a road diet, is preposterous. We need more lanes, not less. There is chaos now. Townscape is now making this about safety, after they were being shamed for making it all about aesthetics. Plant the island, I said. Leave the public right-of-way alone. Vacating a public right-of-way should not be for private use. But they also plan to move the bus stop.
You need to finish your time's expired, so finish your thought.
The bus stop is important because it was an approval by the council that it needed to be moved further east. The other night in presentation, Townscape said they're moving it west, aesthetics. They don't want people coming off the bus in front of their project, handicapped or whatever.
Thank you.
That's not okay, because you guys approved it only if it
Thank
was
you.
to be
I have
moved
to give
the
everybody
other way.
equal time under the rules. Appreciate what you're saying. Thank you.
Stephen Luffman.
Otherwise, we get sued when I don't do the equal time. That's how it works. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
Stephen Luffman, one of the founders of Lytton Savings, Friends of Lytton Savings. I understand that Councilmember Ryu has already made up his mind on this matter, but it has come to light in recent months that Townscape, the developer of this project, has been seeking to sell the project or is looking for investors. In light of this, I think that all permits for this project should be put on hold until the complete financing is in place, so we don't end up with a huge parking lot on this important corner of our city. I will also remind the committee that the site also contains the declared Los Angeles Historic Cultural Monument, the former Lytton Savings Building, now an operating Chase Bank. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Edgar Kalatian, followed by final speaker Jamie Hall.
Good afternoon, Edgar Kalatian with Mayor Brown on behalf of the property owner. First of all, I would like to thank Councilman David Ryu, his staff, the staff at LADOT and BOE for working with us and the community to reach the right decision. This Frank Gehry design project was approved by the City Council in 2016. There were a number of lawsuits that were filed. The city prevailed on all of the lawsuits, including the CEQA claims. However, the Second District Court of Appeal required the city to conduct a hearing on the vacation, hence why we are here today. It's simple. The reason we're here today is pedestrian and vehicular safety. As you will hear from LADOT, this intersection is one of the most dangerous in the city. We are simply relocating a right turn lane to enhance the vehicular and pedestrian safety for everyone traveling on this important intersection that brings people from West Hollywood to the city of Los Angeles. Our team is here and available to answer any questions that you may have today. Thank you.
Thank you. And our final speaker is Jamie Hall.
Good afternoon. My name is Jamie Hall. I'm the president of the Laurel Canyon Association. I'm here today in a purely volunteer capacity. LCA is in support of the proposed street vacation. We appreciate the importance of pedestrian safety and walkability in connection with any new development. The elimination of the traffic island and the free right-hand turn at the southwest corner of Sunset Boulevard and Crescent Heights will eliminate any uncontrolled pedestrian crossing at a very busy intersection, which we believe could improve pedestrian safety. We want to thank you for your consideration of our thoughts.
Thank you. Mr. Vandergrift, would you like to address some of the comments that you heard from the public?
Certainly, Mr. Chair, committee members. My name is Greg Vandergrift with the Land Development GIS Division of the Bureau of Engineering. Again, we received an application for the vacation at the corner of Crescent Heights Boulevard and Sunset Boulevard. The vacation essentially is proposing to vacate a portion of the area that includes a right turn lane on Sunset Boulevard. After we received the vacation, we submitted requests to the various departments regarding any impacts of the vacation and whether or not it would have an impact to their operations. There were conditions that we received from the departments. Those have been incorporated into the report at this time. We did receive comments from the Department of Transportation requesting that the right turn lane be relocated and that the pork chop island, as called, be eliminated. We do have representatives from DOT to speak regarding those matters, as that's their purview and not the Bureau of Engineering's expertise. We received comments from both the public in support of and in opposition to this vacation. We did determine that there are no impacts to public access and use of the area, and therefore we recommend that you proceed with the recommendation to vacate the area per the Bureau of Engineering report. Thank you.
Thank you. We have some comments from DOT.
West Pringle, Department of Transportation. Yeah, when we first took a look at this project, the proposal to vacate that slip lane and fix that problem, We fully supported it. Sunset Boulevard is on the high injury network, and it's part of the Vision Zero goals to get rid of these areas where the pedestrians have to keep crossing the street, basically. This was also reviewed by the LADOT Complete Streets Committee, and they were in favor of the improvement, mostly based on the safety. And their recommendations were to move the bus stop, put in a new bus pad, and also make some adjustments to the island to make the turns work better. And as well as putting in right turn phasing and striping in the right turn pocket.
Thank you. I'm going to turn it to Mr. Rue. Which district this is in? Mr. Rue.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to all the folks who came and spoke today. And I do have a couple of questions. And since you're here, Wes, from LADOT, and I don't want to belabor this fact, I know I asked your professional opinion from LADOT on this intersection, and basically you said it again, but I just want to make it absolutely clear. So regarding the safety of this intersection and the right turn, is it in LADOT's assessment and study that it will make it safer if the since you said pork chop, I want to say pork chop, but but the triangle is incorporated?
Yes. So throughout the city, part of the Vision Zero goals is to eliminate situations like this where we have like a slip lane and we have a pork chop island, because it's safer for pedestrians. The less time pedestrians in the street, the safer it is for pedestrians. And this being on the high injury network and the development being able to provide this improvement for us, it was a win-win for us to recommend that.
Great, thank you for that. And actually, one more question. I think this is more for BOE. It was asked before, and I just want to, and I know my office asked it too, but I just want to, for the record, ask again. So what happens if this project doesn't get completed, or if this project gets sold, and a new project gets proposed for this property?
Well, first of all,
when in respects to the vacation, obviously.
So with respect to the vacation, we have a series of conditions imposed. Should the developer or should the applicant proceed with the project, one of the things that we require is that they post a bond to complete any improvements that might be started. At the same time, under the vacation proceedings, they have 2 years to complete all the conditions. If they don't complete the conditions, then the vacation becomes null and void and they have to reapply. Any new project would have to reapply. On top of that, we do have a requirement that they can't block the existing right turn lane until such time as they've completed the other improvements for the intersection.
Great. So let me make that clear. So if this developer sold this property to another developer and the next developer built exactly the same everything, then the vacation would stay with the project. However, yes, okay. But however, if it gets sold to somebody else and the new person proposes a brand new project, this vacation would be null and void.
The conditions for the vacation remain. It's independent of what project is proposed, because we're talking about just the vacation area. However, if the new applicant does not take over the vacation, then it would simply expire after 2 years.
Okay, that wasn't okay. So, is there any other questions from members?
Go ahead.
Because I do have a couple of amendments. Please. Okay, great. Then, if that's the case, colleagues, you know, the street vacation before us today in regards to 8150 Sunset Project located at the corner of Sunset and Cahuenga in Council District 4. With this street vacation, LADOT reports, as you just heard, that there will be a safer pedestrian experience at the intersection by reducing the length of crossings and interactions with vehicles. Improving safety for pedestrians and road users should always be our top priority. Regardless, it is crucial that the petitioner still has to meet all the conditions as outlined by BOE that are stipulated in the city engineer's report. And these conditions ensure that the project will be minimally disruptive to the surrounding neighborhood while also furthering our top priority of safety to the public. So, Mr. Chair, I would like to request that we approve this. However, I'd like to add 3 conditions to the report. First one is add a right turn phase at the signal on Sunset and Crescent Heights. And the second condition is deposit the $2 million as listed in the previously approved conditions of approval into a LADOT escrow account before a building permit is issued. And the third condition is, and I want to make sure if this is possible, BOE, that if this project is changed considerably, or in the event that it's a new project, that they have to that this vacation has to be reconsidered. And you could give me the proper language.
That condition can be implemented as part of the vacation conditions, that if the project is changed, that and that the approval is currently in place for the parent project, if you will.
Or it's probably if a new application is filed, all right? If a new application, and if we could clean that language up.
If the new application that's substantially different than the previous project.
If a new application is filed that is substantially different than the current project, then yes, the street vacation would have to be reconsidered. So if we could fix that language up and get it ready for council.
Great. So the motion on the table, put forward by Mr. Rue, and I will second it, is to adopt the recommendations in the Bureau of Engineering's October 25th report with the addition of 3 conditions. And Mr. Espinosa, you need us to repeat the conditions, or did you get them?
I'll give you a copy.
Or do you want to?
I'm fine. I have them.
Okay. With the 3 conditions that Mr. Rue has outlined here publicly, including the final condition about if the project is substantially changed by a new owner, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Seeing no objections to that, it's been moved and seconded. That will be the order. And I believe that is the end of our agenda. Mr. Espinosa, is there anything else on our agenda?
No, the desk is clear.
Okay. This meeting is adjourned.